Van Show. He's a monster on a mission to talk to lots of folks. Van Show, Van Show, Van Show, Van Show.
Hey everybody, it's the Van Show. Oh my goodness, we're so excited. We've got a super special, extra special guest. We've got Jerry Kraft. Say hi, Jerry.
Hey, Jerry. Oh, I wasn't supposed to say that. I'm sorry. Well, hey.
You know, we've had quite a few people use that joke. It never gets old. It's Fernie's favorite, actually, right, Fernie? Right? Yeah, there you go. Yep. Fernie's got good taste. Now, Jerry, we want to know a little bit about you. So first of all, tell us where you're from.
I am from New York City.
Yeah?
Yep. So like Jordan Banks, actually, you know, the house that Jordan lives in is my house where I grew up in.
Wow.
Yep. So the Washington Heights section of New York City.
We wanted to know a little bit about you.
Okay.
And since you're an artist, we'd like to know how you got started making art.
You know, I've always loved to draw. I never remember a time in my life when I didn't love to draw.
Wow.
But you know what I didn't like to do?
What's that?
Read books.
Ah.
So the fact that I'm here talking to you about the importance of reading, sometimes it's still mind-boggling.
Really?
Yeah, I never thought I would be this person.
Now, did you have a moment in your youth when you're drawing that like you were recognized for that drawing and you kind of like realized like, wait, maybe I'm better at this than other people and maybe I should keep going with this and keep honing this talent?
I finished second in the art contest to April Turner in 3rd grade.
Oh, you still remember the name?
I still remember. I'm coming for you, April.
Watch out, April. I love that.
And then I started making my own comic books. So by 7th grade, I was creating my own characters and making my own comic books.
Wow. Can you remember the first character you created?
Eggbert. He had an egg for a head, and he was a superhero.
Whoa. Well, sounds very fragile, though.
He was. It's a lot of getting him to come out of his shell. No pun intended. Yeah.
So I mean, so from Eggbert in the 7th grade all the way up to like, you know, not that long after, you're working for Marvel. Like you're making comic books.
Yeah, because Barbara Slate, who's like my comic mentor, she had done a series called Angel Heart, and then she wrote for Barbie and like all these different ones. So it was nice. It's just the two of us working out of her studio, which is really cool. I learned a lot from her. And
so when did you start breaking off on your own to make your own comics?
So I started a comic strip called Mama's Boys in about 1990. And I wanted to get it syndicated, you know, in different newspapers around the country, like Beetle Bailey and Popeye and Hagar the Horrible. And I could never get all my stories up until New Kid I was this close, but could never do it. So I didn't get daily, I got weekly, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
And then I had American Greetings had me do a card line, 40 card line. They wanted me to do that, a Mama's Boys, like 40 cards on a greeting card, and then that fell through. And then I had an idea for a daily comic strip, which came that close, and that fell through. And then even the first time that I sold New Kid, they got rid of that whole imprint, and that fell through.
Whoa.
So there's a lot of falling down.
Yeah, but you know what? You're here now. Like through all of that, I wouldn't call it failure, but disappointment.
Yeah.
You know, rejection. I guess
rejection,
you could say.
A lot of rejection. I still have so many of those rejection letters, and that's what kind of inspired me. And one day I met with the publisher, and they were like, "Hey, do you have any ideas for a graphic novel?" Like, yeah.
As a matter of fact.
pitched New Kid, and they were like, "All right, let's go, let's do it."
And by this point, you already had it written?
Nope, it was all up here.
Oh, wow.
Yep. In 2014, I got the opportunity to illustrate a book for Scholastic called The 0 Degree Zombie Zone.
Ooh.
And that was the first kind of big break. And that's when I started meeting people like Raina Telgemeier.
Oh, yeah.
And Gene Yang and Jared Koshaska.
Wow.
And, you know, people like that. And I was like, wow, people can make a living doing that.
Heck
you
yeah.
know? And I saw kids like holding books, like just hugging, like Wimpy Kid and Smile. And I had no idea that books could give that kind of like visceral, just, you know what I mean? That emotion. And then I really wanted to do it.
So that was kind of where you made that break from like comic strip ideas to like books. Books is where I need to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing. The book is wildly successful. Now you got a third in the series.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to ask a little bit before we talk about the new book. Unfortunately, there's been some people who haven't received it so well. At least like you know what I mean.
I
mean, it's a book about acceptance. You know, critically acclaimed, but there's still some people who consider acceptance and difference to be offensive or controversial in some way. Can you talk about that a little bit? Like, I mean, I'm sure that doesn't feel great for you.
It's so weird because I never expected it. You know, so my life, like when I had my sons, right? So I worked at Sports Illustrated for kids. And then when I had kids, I read them their stories, and I would go to school and make ice cream for them. And I coached their baseball teams and their basketball. So everything I've done is kids, right? And then all the books that I had done that I self-published for 20 years, I had to self-publish because I couldn't get published. And so to all of a sudden be like, I'm this controversial figure, it took a little bit to get used to.
I imagine.
Yeah, you weren't the only one who was feeling blue.
Oh, you write a book about kids trying to fit in, like one of the most universal kind of concepts, and people are like, I don't know about that. I don't think kids should read about things that kids are dealing with.
Yeah, I'm sorry to teach kids about empathy and caring and, you know, learning to take the time, like, where are you from?
Yeah.
How do you pronounce your name? You know, if you're Korean, that's not the same as being Japanese. That's not the same as being Chinese.
Yeah.
If you're Mexican, that's not the same as being Puerto Rican. And just that little bit of like thing that makes us all the same, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to put in there, in humor and loving families and stuff like that. And yes, it is a 12-year-old, his first experience with things like race and class, but he's not overwhelmed by it. Mm-hmm. You know, and I have to say, as an African-American male, you know, who was an African-American boy, because that's how I started.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Right. The books that I had to read, I was never included in that. I never saw myself like happy, you know, just going out to ice cream or playing video games. Like they were just like, I had the weight of my shoulders. You know, you read these books and there's tears coming down. So I was uncomfortable my whole youth of reading, which is why I hated to read.
Yeah.
Right? Because why would I always want to be reminded of how miserable life is? So I'm like, this is Jordan and Drew and Liam, and now they're going to Paris.
That's right. And so we're almost out of time here.
Okay.
But I did want to mention that you're a Junior Library Guild author.
Yep.
And they had a question for you about the new book.
Okay.
All right. So what they wanted to know is, what's your favorite French word that we use in America?
Oh, that's a good one. You know, the first one that comes to mind is hors d'oeuvres.
Ooh. Hors d'oeuvres.
Yeah, right? Doesn't have that like...
It rolls off the tongue.
It rolls, and then it goes onto the tongue. So I like the fact that when there are hors d'oeuvres, you know, we're going to get those like cool little pastries and little shrimp puffs and...
Oh, Jerry, thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
This has been a blast.
Absolutely.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Fashion show, fashion show, fashion.